Hi there, it's Pandora, and today I want to make a video for you about the decks that I have been reaching for lately, my most recent and latest tarot crushes, and just show you a small selection of decks that I have been working with that I've been really enjoying. And I mentioned on this channel before that I don't really do that whole thing that you see a lot of people with sizable collections doing, where they will either rotate their decks seasonally and work with certain decks for certain seasons, or work with a selection of decks or even just a single deck for the month. And I've tried that and it doesn't really work for me at the moment anyway. Like, maybe I will become more disciplined and more organized and sort of more committed and better at sticking to things like that at some point in the future. But for now, it's really just going with what feels right to me, what draws me in, and what I feel like I would like to work with on a particular day or for a particular question and things like that. So that's just what I do, and these are the decks that I've been reaching for. So obviously, if you've got a reasonably sizable collection, then you will have a variety of different decks with different themes and things like that. So I have a collection of about 40 to 50 decks at the moment. I did recently sell all of about 8 decks. I honestly So the first deck I want to show you is the Falakos Tarot by Carmen Sorrenti. And I came across this deck on Instagram one day, I'm pretty sure. I just saw it in my Instagram feed and I found myself going, where did you get this deck? What deck is this? And I read what I was typing and I had to go, you have to use manners. Please use your manners. So I backspaced what I was typing and I said, could you please tell me the name of this deck? I am desperate to know what it is. So I did pull myself up on that one and I managed to use my manners, but it was just a I have to know what deck that is moment. And so I looked it up and went on the website, and I was a bit crestfallen to see that it was an independent deck. I am trying at the moment to cut down on the amount of foreign indie decks that I purchase from overseas, because obviously of the high costs, and really that reason alone I absolutely advocate for buying independent decks if you can. But for me, I had to cut back on doing that just for purely financial reasons, because it does cost a lot of money to get an independent deck, well, just to buy an independent deck for starters, and then to get it sent to you from overseas and pay those high shipping costs. So for me to do that, it has to be really worth it. And so I saw that it was an overseas indie deck, and I felt like, oh, what a shame. Like, I really love it and I really connect with the artwork and I think that I would really enjoy it. And I sort of just said, okay, maybe one day, and I put it to one side. And then several months later, like I'm talking 8 or 9 months at least, I came across it on a local buy swap sell page, and I was so thrilled. A lady who I have both had it up for trade, who I have both, you know, traded with and sold to and bought from before, so that was really good. There was that trust and that know and trust factor, and I knew that she was a good person to trade with and that she was trustworthy. So I was so lucky, and I felt like it was honestly a gift from the universe. And I just really love this deck, and I will show you some of the images. Some of them are the wrong way around. Sorry about that. Oh yes, here's the cover cards. And so you can find Carmen Sorrenti on Instagram, and I'll pop her website below, even though I did not purchase from her website, so I can't speak to what her customer service is like and that kind of thing, because I did buy this secondhand, but it is absolutely beautiful. Kellyanne Maddox was saying recently that she bought the Dust to Onyx Tarot and had a series of spiritual experiences with it, and I can absolutely relate to that, especially with my experience with this particular deck. This is a soul deck for me. I don't have a single soul deck, but this is certainly one that I connect very deeply to on a soul level, and I have amazing experiences with it each and every time I read with this deck. And I absolutely love how the art is so visceral and triggering, and just really triggers an emotional response in me and reminds me of something that's happened to me years ago. But at the same time, it is so warm and nurturing. And I can't even really quite explain it any better than that, except to say that I don't know how it's possible for a deck to be so, you know, warm and fuzzy and nurturing and, you know, gentle, whilst also being really triggering and visceral and hard hitting. I just don't even know how that's possible, but I absolutely love this deck. And it is a soul deck for me. It was my Tarot Unicorn, and I highly recommend it. The artwork is beautiful. Some of them are done in this sort of drawing style that's a little bit like this one here. You've got the drawing of the boy on the horse for the Six of Sparks, and then you've got ones like this that are done in a more painted style, and they're a little bit abstract, but then there's also elements that obviously you can see what they are and they represent something. Some of them are just absolutely beautiful. That's the Empress, so of course she has to be beautiful. And some of the cards in this deck are just stunning. And Five of Wings. So the suits are changed. They're wings and sparks, and I can't remember what else. Yeah, that's right, coral, and that's the King of Sparks. Just stunning. That's from the suit of coral as well. I love this Hermit. And you've got the girl on there from the card backing there. So she's on the backing, and then you've got her on the Hermit card, which is interesting how they've done that. I love the backing, by the way. And wings. So you've got wings, sparks, coral, and spirals. So your other suit is the suit of spirals. And the other thing I want to say about this deck is that the cardstock is absolutely beautiful. I can't even fault it. It just shuffles so beautifully. I would say it's silky and satiny, and it's not too thick, not too thin, just absolutely beautiful. I probably will do a full review of this deck at some stage, but for now, just believe me when I say that this deck is absolutely gorgeous. It is the Folakos Tarot by Carmen Sorrenti, and I've hardly picked up another deck since I bought this deck. It's only been in the last few weeks or so that I've started to take an interest in my other tarot decks again, and that hardly ever happens. I just absolutely love it, and it is one that I have been reaching for often lately. I just go back to it over and over and over again, and every time it blows my mind, it rocks my world. It is just stunning and gorgeous and phenomenal. This beautiful deck is the Numinous Tarot by an artist named Noel Arthur Heimpel. I really do love the backing of this deck with just the soft watercolor wash and then the nice little symbols and sigils that you have here in gold. It is a gold gilded edge and a shiny finish. That was a bit of a thing. Noel Arthur Heimpel wanted a matte finish with a gilded edge, but that wasn't able to happen because of some technicalities with the printing equipment. So that's a little bit sad when a deck creator can't get exactly what they want and what their vision was for a particular deck, but I think that it did come out really beautiful. The cardstock is really stunning. This is the box that it comes in, and it is really huge and bulky and excessive. It's got this plastic insert in it that a lot of people complained about that you could theoretically store the deck in, but I don't prefer to store my deck in this box. I just keep this box on display in my cabinet, and then I will just have the deck sitting in my cabinet on a shelf. It's in the cabinet away from the dust, and I just put a crystal on top, so that's what I do. This guidebook is really nice. The card descriptions and the suggested meanings for the cards are really wonderful and insightful, and all of those things that you would want from a tarot guidebook. And the thing that really speaks to me about this guidebook is how Noel Arthur Heimpel does a little biography and a little rundown of why they wanted to make this deck at the start of the guidebook, and they just talk about how they finished art school and didn't really have a sense of direction for the first time and struggled with their sense of identity as an artist, and creating this deck helped them recover from depression and was just a really great step in the right direction, and just such a story of the testament of the human spirit that really spoke to me. And so I love the art in this deck. and it is designed to be an inclusive deck with non-gender specific card titles. So the card titles have been changed. You've got the different suits are changed to vials, bells. I think there's tomes for earth. How nice is that? Ace of tomes instead of the Ace of Pentacles. And then you've got candles as well, I believe, for wands. So it's just so colourful and beautiful and vibrant. And even though it is designed to be a deck that's inclusive of LGBTQI plus people, people of colour, and people with disabilities, so there are people with physical disabilities in this deck, and people with, you know, crutches and wheelchairs and things. There's also slightly chubby people, people with punky haircuts and really quirky fashion sense, and so for that reason it really speaks to me, and I find it just such a warm, welcoming deck. It's just like such a hug. I feel really included in this deck, and using this deck just gives me such a good feeling for that reason. That's the Ace of Bells. That's one of the first cards from this deck that I absolutely fell in love with. The Ten of Tomes. I love how they're in a library. I just can't get enough of the Ace of Tomes all around, really. That other card, the lady's actually at a little book library. So you've got the slightly chubby lady there at a book library. That is just so me. And it's also got a lot of really beautiful mystical and esoteric imagery as well. So there he's got his little walker. And it's always nice to use a deck where you can kind of see yourself. I love this image with her blue hair and the shaved sides. So yes, I really, really love the Numinous Tarot by artist Noel Arthur Heimpel. So I finally ticked the Awakened Soul Oracle deck off my wish list. This deck is by the wonderful Ethony, with artwork and illustration by the fantastic Danielle Mulligan, and I've wanted this deck for a really long time. I've always thought, oh yeah, I'll buy that eventually, and because it's an indie deck, it's overseas, it's so expensive, I just put it off and put it off and put it off, and then Ethony announced that she would be going out of print and that there was only a limited number of decks left, and that lit a fire up my rear end and I went, okay, I definitely have to buy it because I just really love it, and I had the money at the time, so I just went ahead and purchased it, and I haven't regretted it. It's everything that I knew it would be and more. It is just so colourful and vibrant and beautiful. The art style is just so gorgeous and warm and touching and inviting. The cardstock is beautiful. I love the silver gilded edge. I don't have very many decks with a silver gilded edge. I think I have one other, and that's one of my Doreen Virtue ones. And one of the things that I love about this deck is not just the art style, but that the titles of the cards are really relevant to me and my life and my spiritual practice. So I always find that every card that I choose is always really appropriate, and it's got a real knack like that. And I think that you would like this deck if you, whether you are someone who identifies as a witch or a magical practitioner, or if you are someone who is more into the new agey side of things and you are into manifestation work and law of attraction and things like that, because you've got some cards that are a little bit witchy, but for the most part they're not, you know, really super earth based. It's a awakened soul deck, so it is a soul awakening deck, and you know, it has concepts of that sort of thing more so than earth based spirituality. Having said that though, it is a really magical and witchy deck, and I really love it. So that's the Awakened Soul Oracle. I really love the guidebook for the Awakened Soul Oracle. It's a good little size, and you've got a couple of, like a little page of information for each card, and Ethony's got some spreads in there and things like that. And Ethony is just a great person in the community. She is the headmistress of Tarot Summer School and the Tarot Readers Academy, and so she runs courses and workshops and things like that you can pay for, but she also puts a lot of content out into the community for free. So she does do a lot of blog posts and videos that are really informative and really helpful, and she also buys a lot of other people's decks. You'll see her unbox on her own channel heaps and heaps of people's decks, and I just love that because I think that it shows that she's a real tarot and oracle lover, and also that she's about supporting the community as well as you know, putting her own content out there, not just paid content but also free content. So I absolutely love that about Ethany, and I am still debating about whether to buy the Bad Bitches Tarot if I manage to buy that before it goes out of print, because there's one card in that deck that I'm really in love with, and that's, I think, one of the Wands cards that looks like Adele in her Send My Love to Your New Lover video clip, and I don't know if I can justify to myself buying a deck just because I've fallen in love with one image. I think that there are other images in that deck that I love as well, but I think that you really have to love, you know, not every card, but at least most of the cards to buy a deck. So I'm still tossing that one up. I have been reaching for the Colour Mage Oracle by Bernard Charles the Colour Mage. I did an unboxing video of this on my channel a long time ago, so I have had it for a few years now, and lately I've just been reaching for it a lot. It's a good deck to just pick up and to just draw a few cards or a couple of cards and just look at them for 5 seconds and get a vibe from them and just leave it at that. Or you can really do a really in-depth reading with these and really ponder them. I've got the Rainbow edition, so I haven't got the edition with the black and white and grey cards in it. So I've only got the deck with colour in it. And the biggest complaint that I have about these cards, apart from the fact that the deck's a little bit bowed, is that the writing is very pale, and for people with eyesight problems, it's also in a weird small font. So that one's a real cursive font, and then this one's just this tiny font, like you can't even, I don't know if you can see that in the video, but it says abundance. And I don't generally have any eyesight problems. I've never needed glasses or anything like that, but even I have trouble reading some of these sometimes. Like there's the colour Orchid, and it says raise your vibration, but it's just tiny. And I actually have a friend who has this deck, and she has vision problems, and she just complains about it all the time. So it would be really nice if Bernard Charles the Colour Mage could change that in subsequent editions of this deck, but I don't know if that'll happen. So really the only complaint I have about this deck, it is really beautiful. The colours in it are gorgeous, the messages are resonant, and they fit in with my spiritual perspectives and where I'm at. So I think that's why I'm loving it so much at the moment. I know a lot of you are really excited about the Moonchild Tarot by Danielle Knoll that has recently been released, and I was in love with some of the prototype images that she came up with for the Moonchild Tarot and that she released to the public, and I saw them and I thought, that is so beautiful, I can't wait until the Moonchild Tarot comes out. And then it came out and I just wasn't exactly loving it. I didn't fall completely and madly in love with it, and so due to my rule about no overseas indie decks unless you really love them, I did not purchase it. But I have found myself reaching for the Starchild Tarot Akashic Edition. This is the limited edition Starseed box. I think the other one is a Stargate box, which is the usual standard edition that she still has in print. So this one is now out of print, and I really love this deck. I love everything about it. I love the color scheme. There is diversity in this deck, but there's not a lot of diversity in the sense that you've mostly got young, attractive, thin people in this deck. But apart from that, there is diversity in this deck. But I just love the color scheme, the imagery used. She also did the Work Your Light Oracle with Rebecca Thompson, I think her name is, who did Light is the New Black and Rise Sister Rise. And so that's a really beautiful deck as well. But I have just been reaching for my Starchild Tarot, and it is all about the Starchild Tarot. And I was picking up my Numinous Tarot the other day, and I thought this would match really well with the Starchild Tarot. And then I went, hang on, they're both tarot, and I don't do that. I generally don't read with 2 tarot decks in the same reading, because I'd sort of be worried about what would happen if I got 2 nines and a 9 of swords or something like that. But then I thought, well, you know, maybe I should try it sometime. Don't second guess yourself. So I will be doing that. Before I bought the Full Arcos Tarot a few months ago, I found myself really reaching a lot for the Crystal Visions Tarot by Jennifer Galasso. That's the backing there. This has got quite a thick white border around the outside that a lot of people trim it, and it looks really attractive. I had a go at trimming my old copy of this deck because this is the second copy I've ever owned. This was the first deck that got me started on my tarot collecting journey, because I saw it and just fell in love with it just as I was starting to get more interested in tarot again, and I started being able to give myself a reading worth 2 bob, and I just absolutely love this deck. It is so beautiful, and when I first bought it, somebody sort of made fun of me because it was a bit of a sweet, saccharine kind of deck, and it's not tough or dark or triggering or any of that stuff. It's just a really beautiful kind of pagan themed fantasy gorgeous deck, and the card images in it, some of them are really witchy and really kind of pagan, but the art style is just really beautiful. All of the figures in it are really quite sweet, and I do really love this deck, and it has a special place in my heart, and I will always hang on to this deck. And I've reached for it a little bit lately, but really since I've got the Philakos Tarot, it's really been all about the Philakos Tarot, but I do really still love the Crystal Visions Tarot. So lately I've really been vibing on affirmation decks, and I've got a few mass published Louise Hay affirmation decks and Gabrielle Bernstein affirmation decks, and I really love those. But I was really excited when I found out that Melissa from When My Soul Whispered had published this one, and this is the Affirmations of the Soul affirmation deck, and I really love it. It's on really nice cardstock. Melissa has got a small business or a website that she runs where she sells a lot of overseas indie decks so that you can get them at a lower cost and not pay those high shipping costs. So she's really doing a service to the community with that business, and I would encourage everybody to go and check it out and support her, especially with her own deck. And she is releasing her own Oracle deck really soon as well, and I hope that she will release a tarot deck one day because she is a huge tarot enthusiast. She's got a massive collection in her video. You can see it in the backgrounds of her videos, and I love the affirmations in this deck. I just saw them and I thought they were perfect. I love how they're just this nice font on a white backing with different colors. So I really love that. I think that's really attractive. That pink is just gorgeous. And I'm just going to read one to you now. So I'll pick one at random. And it says, I exercise my personal boundaries with love. So that is so important. I surround myself with those who encourage me to become my greatest version. Fantastic. I focus my sacred energy only on that which nourishes my soul. Ooh, that's so me right now, because this is my nourish year. So I love that. And this deck is just gorgeous. And I love it. And I've got this little wooden stand that I bought from another website called Mindful Health and Wellness. And I'll link to that below. That's where I bought my copy of the Connected and Free Alchemist Oracle, which I haven't been reaching for lately, so it won't be in this video. But I will link to her shop below because she's got these, but I think that you can just get them on eBay or whatever. So what I'll do is I'll just put it up somewhere in my cabinet or on one of my shelves, and I'll just pop a little card in there now. And this is my favorite deck to do that with, so that I've got this affirmation there for me to see every day. And it looks after the cards, it doesn't bend them or anything like that at the bottom. It just sits in there nicely, and then the next day, or you know, whenever else, I'll take it out and just put a new one in. So I believe love has the power to transcend all. Just gorgeous. So I know I talked about doing an angel decks that are not Doreen Virtue decks video, but this is really the only one that I've been reaching for, and this is Messages of Life by Mario Dugai. And it doesn't have a guidebook, it's just one of these decks that has a little image there, and then it's got some writing with an affirmation on it. So it's sort of an oracle deck, sort of an affirmation deck, but I really love it. This card's been stalking me. This is Return to the Inner Temple, sorry. And so you've got this beautiful lady there in a healing spring with healing coming down on her, and there's flowers everywhere. So they're just really lovely images, and then really nice messages as well. I find that they resonate and that they fit in with my sort of spiritual perspective on things. And some of them have got angels and fairies in them, like this one. And it's just a really nice deck that I've found myself reaching for a lot. This is the backing. I really like the backing. And I kind of like how it's a longer but kind of narrow at the top deck. And I bought this deck from the lovely Lee Fei Moon. So check out her channel if you like. She's an awesome witchy YouTuber who does tarot and oracle videos who lives on the Goldie, and she and I had a good chat about some tarot and oracle topics lately, so that was really great. So check out Lee if you haven't already. The next deck is not an affirmation deck per se, but it is a really positive and uplifting deck, and that is the Blessed Be deck, published by Blue Angel, with guidebook by Lucy Cavendish and artwork by Jane Star Wales. And this deck is absolutely beautiful. Some of you may laugh, but I cannot even describe the warm fuzzy feelings that I get from working with this deck. I absolutely love it. That's the backing. It's just your usual standard Blue Angel good cardstock, really nice. And I love the card images. They've got this really nice old-timey kind of earth-based feel. So I think that this deck you would really like this deck if you are interested in paganism and earth-based spirituality and just that sort of whole world view and respecting the ancestors and ancestral ways and the old ways. So that's what I really love about this deck, and sometimes I feel like I just wish that I could hang out with this deck all day. I find myself spending a lot of time with it. There's a guy with horns, with antlers there. Nice body too. So yeah, I find myself spending a lot of time with this deck, and I really love it. The Blessing of Fire. Some of these cards depict Morrigan. They are a Celtic themed deck, so you will see images and cards and themes that depict Goddess Morrigan. And most of the guidebook entries have this nice little couple of pages about a deck, and then it'll say Blessed Be at the end of every description there. This one though is Morrigan's battle blessing for peace after a battle. And so if you are interested in Morrigan, you may like this deck. So yeah, check it out. I've come to the end now of my decks I've been reaching for, my current tarot crushes. Thanks for hanging out with me and checking out what decks I've been using lately and what I've been loving and enjoying and getting a lot out of. That's really been bringing a lot to my spiritual life. So what decks have you been reaching for? Let me know. Do you do the seasonal decks thing? Do you do the monthly decks thing? Or do you just do what I do and just reach for whatever you feel like, whatever feels right, whatever draws you for a certain reading that you want to do, or just whatever suits the mood that you're having on that day? So let me know, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye!